All right, yeah, now the morning show is an espionage show. Sure. Okay. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. Episode 9, the penultimate episode of the morning show, season 4 is here. It is called Un Bel Di. I don't think I've ever seen a show take so many liberties within one season, genre wise, and kind of continue to lose focus of being about the morning show or anything that's happening in the news. We have sort of grown this show to being this big epic soap opera, and now we're spies, and now we're doing secret covert missions in the opera. Okay, okay. The one thing that I will say about the morning show, and it bothers me the most in this episode because we just get a sort of a droplet of Chris. Um, there are so many characters on this show that it becomes hard to sort of feed them all. And even though you have some great actors in here, Chris's episode that happened, I don't know, 4 or 5 episodes ago was utterly brilliant. Since then, they have had absolutely no idea what to do with her character. And it has been sort of the same with Mia. Mia's kind of been stuck in that route of like, how do we keep her story going? Because the two of them are sort of attached. Even Bro has high arcs and then kind of just episodes where we just forget about him existing. And sometimes the show becomes so singularly focused that the breadcrumbs that they are building and laying for everything else don't feel like they matter. And this episode, and I'm imagining the follow-up episode, are going to be very Bradley and Alex and maybe even Paul centric. And it's a bit of a disservice to everything else that was sort of built up this season. Neither here nor there. Let's talk about it. Episode 9. We begin with Bradley's being detained. We know that she's been unlawfully detained, and Celine, Alex, Ben, and John, who is from 911, return, and they are sort of having this meeting to discuss what's the next steps to do. What can we do to help get Bradley back home? Alex lets out that she feels at blame and that Bradley was chasing a story, to which Celine's a little bit intrigued because she wasn't aware. It's like, well, what story is she chasing? And Alex, unknowingly, because she doesn't know the full extent and know that Celine's family is attached, lets the cat out of the bag and tells her know that she's looking up the story about a cover up that happened, before the merger, about environmental cover up. And then immediately you can see Celine's face tighten up real quick, like, ooh, oh damn. To the point where you're like, oh, Celine now has to go full on villainous role and be like, hey, maybe it's okay if Bradley stays her ass over there. Like, we don't really need to have her back, do we? She's fine. Celine immediately was like, I want to keep things quiet. Like, let's keep things quiet and let's go to the State Department. The State Department is the only way that's going to be able to sort of facilitate getting Bradley back home in a normal and safe way. We all as an audience know that, yeah, that probably is on the surface level looks like the best way, but Celine has a family that could easily make a call and probably get Bradley back home. She is choosing to go that way to sort of buy her some time to figure out what's the best case scenario, what's the next step to do, so that this doesn't splash back on her because she didn't take the out that her family told her to take. Like, hey, come on back home, get away from all this. She's still in it. Now that she's still in it and she still wants it, she wants to do everything in her power to hold on to it. So she's like, nah, we're gonna keep this in house. Don't tell anybody. Don't even tell the staff. Just say Bradley's sick. We will go on about our day. We will figure out what the State Department can do, which isn't a really good answer for Alex because she wants to make sure that Bradley gets back home because she feels at fault. Celine does say that if anything should leak about Bradley, any package that is planning to go out about her needs to be vetted through her. So she is trying to keep everything, her pulse on everything that is related to Bradley, to sort of make sure that the story, whatever she has, goes away. Due to Bradley being gone or on sick leave, Chris is now on a hold at the morning show. So Chris is back with being the co-chair with Yanko, which is pretty much the only thing that we really get to deal with the morning show, other than the very end when they do a press release. Back at home, Alex is home, I believe. Chip informs Alex that Bradley is going to be detained. and they're going to charge her with some pretty serious crimes to the point where she's going to be put into prison and probably lost for years. And they are now a little bit more on edge. Like, yeah, I know she said to wait for the State Department, but we need to speed this process along. We need to make sure and guarantee that Bradley's going to get home, come hell or high water. And so they're running their heads through the brain, like, okay, who is powerful enough or has enough connections to people in Belarus that would actually be able to get this job done and maybe sort of grease the wheels a little bit to speed things along. And much to her chagrin, Alex is like, I do know one person, and it's Paul, Interpol. So she goes to go see Paul and asks for him to set up a meet between Dmitry Ivanov, who has connections as a tech millionaire who has a lot of connections to that side of the country. And Paul's very hesitant. So hesitant that we didn't bring back a character, his assistant Amanda, who existed in the last season, who just is not a fan of Alex in any way, shape, or form. I would also say, well, we'll get to that part. I think introducing or putting a character back on the board in the 9th episode makes it kind of obvious a little bit, but we'll get there. But Amanda's like, I don't rock with her. Don't do anything for her, Paul. You have a blind spot for Alex. Please don't put yourself in this. You don't need to be involved in this at all. Paul's like, yeah, I know, I won't, but he will because he loves that Alex. Paul does bring up the fact though that like, hey, Celine has ties over there. Like, I don't. Why isn't she having her family do something to get her back? But Alex is kind of like, well, she just says go to the State Department, and Paul's like, yeah, that is the correct thing. Celine's smart enough to be like, yes, she could make that move, but she brought up the State Department because by the letter of the law, that is the correct way to do so. And so it doesn't look like she's pulling up the wool over anybody, but everybody's kind of like, well, if we can just make that call, like, why are we doing this? The only Chris piece, which sort of got brought up in the last episode, was that Chris on air is giving up her gold medals to the runner-up in the games that she won. It's a heartfelt moment. You can see how much it means to her to sort of like give those up. You need the earlier episode of that was just central on her to sort of get the emotional impact here, because since that point, you really got nothing for Chris to have done. And so that's kind of what I'm talking about, where her character, and that actress, she's so good. Nicole is so good that we shouldn't just kind of have her on the sideline as being the seventh character that is brought up in this episode. Celine and Ben ask for Chip to come in, and they start questioning him about Bradley's story. Like, what does she have? Did she send any files over? Ben is doing it from of like, hey, I want to know what does she have, and like, what is she okay, and like what story she was leading to sort of know whose feet we're stepping on. Celine is kind of like, I want to know what she got so I can shut it down. Like, what does she know? What does she have? Celine's asking, like, did she meet the source? Was this all a trap for her to get over there? Like, did somebody trick her to coming in there? Like, what does she actually tangibly have? She then checks Chip a couple times, like, hey, Chip, there's a hard drive that was found on her. Was she able to send anything over? Do you have any files over? And it's at that point that Chip can see, like, okay, hold on. This isn't the normal round of questioning from the UBN officers. Something else is at here. You start being a little bit more cagey with the answers that he's giving Celine and Ben. More so Celine, because Ben's not pressing as hard as Celine is. Celine asked, hey, if Bradley sent anything over, can we take a look at it? And Chip's like, I don't think Bradley would want that. Celine brings up, like, I think considering the circumstances, she would be okay with us taking a look at her files. And that's what gives Chips the cause for pause. So Chip leaves that meeting and then goes quickly to Bradley's dressing room and kind of tries to see if she left anything there, or if there was anything that she would have had sent to that location. And he can't find anything. And then Mia comes in and says, hey, you're the second group of people who've come in here looking in Bradley's room. Is she sick, or is there something else at play? Because this is a little amiss. And that fires off the Chip like, wait, somebody else is looking for files in this room? Okay, now I'm a little bit of concern. And that's at the point where Chip asks, like, how well do you know Celine? And like, how is she as a boss? And Mia said, don't get on her bad side. To which then Mia follows up, I know Bradley's not sick, so you're going to need to give up what the hell's going on, or I'm going to have to let out some dirty secrets. So Chip, being that soft, bendable Play-Doh boy that he is, he gives it all up to Mia. As a genuine friend, and to see if Bradley has reached out to Corey, because she knows their connection. Celine checks in on Corey to see how he's doing after their coke bender that they had the night before, and how just sad that he is in his mother's passing. And he just waking up. Wasn't. He's not been with the world. He is doing really, really bad. It's Corey at his lowest. But he lets them know, like, yeah, I haven't talked to anybody. She doesn't come out to straight up ask Bradley about Bradley, but she can tell that in the way that he's answering that Bradley has not had any interaction with him, and he has no idea what the hell Bradley was doing. And so he's no help. But she does say that, hey, I know you're in a bad way. I'll come check on you in a little bit just to make sure that you're doing better. Chip goes to see Alex with Mia in tow, and Alex locates a Wolf River document that Bradley has sent over, and it's immediately then that Mia kind of catches wind of that, has to catch them all up, and Chip's like, she knows everything. She's in on it. And I was like, cool. Can't keep a damn mouth shut, Chip. Mia says, look, I can help. I have my guy, her rendezvous boy toy that she keeps ending up with, Andre. She's like, he can be on the ground immediately to bring Bradley back home. We just need to find out a way to get her to him. And Alex is like, okay, cool. It's good to know that piece. Chip goes to make some phone calls, and Alex and Mia have the much needed heart to heart that they have about just how everything went down with her not getting the head of news. And Alex is like, I should have done a better job to protect you. It was your job. I wasn't around. I had so many other things going, but that's not an excuse. I am deeply apologetic. It's the first time that Mia, because before when they met, Mia was hot. This time she has cooled off a little bit, and she's a little bit more accepting and understanding of Alex. And so they become a tandem again. I do think that writing wise, it's not enough occurred between the two of them for them to all of a sudden be okay again. It just felt like for this episode, they needed the two of them on the same page versus how they were maybe 2 episodes ago, where Mia was like, nah, I don't want to hear anything about you, Alex. You're making decisions about my life. Doesn't seem like the same character, but we'll go with it for the purpose of what they want for this episode. Paul calls Alex back and is like, all right, you guys are on. I got to meet with you with Dimitri at the opera. Come, we can't be around each other because it can't seem like it's a complete setup, but I can set up to meet with you, bring a date, and he's going to bring his side piece, not his wife, his side piece, who has a television show that she wants to have taken and up a level and brought up to a level and get more eyeballs on. So do with that what you will. And so Mia and Alex head off to the opera. Celine goes to check on Corey, and they're still kind of breaking down about how he feels about life. And Corey asks him, like, why Miles? Like, you are all in head over heels over Miles, and you could get any man that you want in this world. Like, you are beautiful, you're rich. And she says she's tied to him. Like, she is weak for him. Like, he gets her buttons, he understands her. And I think the biggest round of dirty macking that I've ever seen in my entire life, Corey is kind of like, well, look, real talk. If I had you, if you were my girl, I'd never treat you that way. That'd never happen. To which Celine's kind of like, well, hold on, wait a minute, what are you saying? And Corey's like, has there ever been a point where you thought about us? And she's like, I have thought about us before. But every time that I sort of made a move or got around you, you kind of would just back off. She responds back like, hey, real quick, what about you? Has there ever been a moment? Like, what do you think about when you think about us? And he comes back was like, I just think about us in bed 24/7, and we fuck until we die of thirst, which is exactly what Celine wants to hear, because they start going at it like rabbits. They're making out and going at it. It's interesting though, because they're going at it, I feel like, in a moment of pain, both of them. Hers is in fear, and he is very much in just complete and total pain. But their tryst gets broken up for a bit as he gets a phone call dealing with the ramifications of his mother's death, and it sort of kills the mood, kills everything off. And then they start going through some of the trinkets that his mom had sent over that he didn't want to go through by himself, and she goes through it with him because she cares about it. But after the opera, Dimitri arrives after a bit, and Paul calls Alex and Mia over. Mia works with Dimitri's girl. Like they separate. Dimitri's girl stays with Mia to talk about her show. She comes up with ideas like, we can do this for your show. We can do this. So she's occupied while Paul, Dimitri, and Alex step out a bit and have a conversation about what they want to do. We quickly learn that Paul is no longer with his fiance. So Alex is kind of like, cool, put a pin in that. We'll come back to that. Then Alex and Paul pop the big question to Dimitri. I'm like, hey, so here's what we need. And Dimitri is like, wait, what? Well, what are you going to offer to me to get that? And like the really only thing that they have is to help his side piece get their TV deal off. Like that's kind of all that they're offering. And he's like, nah, if that's what you got, this is too dangerous. Like it's a lot of calls, a lot of favors that have to be made to make this happen on my end. Nah. And he just dips and goes back to talk to his girl. While he's talking to his girl, Mia overhears in their native tongue, but she can speak it, that he's not really that hesitant. He can do this deal. Like he can do this for them. But just getting her TV deal, that ain't gonna be enough. That's not enough to make this happen. This is too big of an ask, too much of a favor to ask. That isn't the equivalent of what they need to get the job done. So Mia goes to Alex and is like, look, he's willing to do the deal. Like he's not completely out on the deal. It's just the TV stuff for his high piece, that's not the sweetener he needs. We need something else. We need something bigger for him. He thought you guys were going to be coming with something a little bit heavier if that was going to be the ask. Alex goes to Paul and it's like, look, I think we need a bigger sweetener. Like he's open to the idea. We just need a bigger sweetener. How about you give him the AI software that you've been working on? And Paul's like, absolutely not. Like he just lost a ton of money as a tech deal. Like he's being sanctioned. No, we can't do that at all. And then Alex comes up with the idea. It's like, well, what if we use your software, but put it under the guise of the failed UBN software, and like none of the footprints come back to you, we or me, we're just sort of putting it up in this new AI platform. Because if they put it through the UBN stuff, Alex can then use it and sort of stretch it out through the Olympics and some other avenues that it doesn't really come back to UBN as well. And Paul's like, it's possible. However, if it comes back to us or anything footprints back to us, that's our ass. Like we are screwed. But because he loves her some Alex, he makes some calls, and he calls Amanda to sort of put this deal in place for Alex and thus for Bradley. I came up here at this point and I was like, okay, there's no reason in the world that you all of a sudden bring Amanda back into this episode and then penultimate episode just because, like, oh, she's a character favorite and the audience loved her. No. You're going to have her being a backdoor to somebody else that she shouldn't be. So that's exactly what happened. Celine gets a text from someone that Bradley is coming home, and that there are being channels being made and asked for to get her released and put on a tarmac and good to go. And so she has to kiss Corey at his weakest and leave him, and says like, we will reconvene on whatever this hell this was the next time that we see each other. When she gets out of Dodge, because she's like, my life is about to be turned upside down. So she dips. Celine then calls her family. We don't really see this piece, but basically this is what's happening in the background. She calls her family and makes sure that Bradley stays her ass where she's at, does not get on that plane. And thanks to the text tip that she got from Paul's assistant, Amanda, shocker, she has information as to what is about to happen. And yeah, Bradley does not end up on that plane with Andre. She ends up going to prison and getting locked up and getting charged. We see a shot of Bradley getting escorted down the hall with playing with the will she, won't she? Is she going to the tarmac to meet Andre and get on the copter and leave, or is she going somewhere else? We find out, yeah, she's arrested. Chip calls Alex to tell her the news, and like, yeah, she didn't get on that plane. We've lost her. We don't know where she's at. She didn't get done. And then the text started going out to the people who were a part of the said deal that Dimitri and they were going to have to say, like, yeah, it's not happening. So Dimitri lets Paul know, hey, we're going to take off for this opera. See you next time. And Paul's like, are we still a go? Like, what's happening? Dimitri sort of gives him the shake, like, nah, son, nah, that ain't, we ain't, my bad. It ain't happening. So then back at the morning show, Ben has to inform the team that Bradley's not coming back. The sick term or sick notice isn't going to be good enough for them anymore. And so um, he gives them sort of the marching orders of what they're supposed to say on the air and how they plan to fight this. He lets them know that like when a reporter is imprisoned, it's typically because they're trying to be silenced or someone is trying to silence them. They don't know that the person trying to silence them is in the house. Is Celine. Um, but he says to them, like, we won't let that happen again. And so this is day one of Bradley coverage, and we're going to beat them over the head with Bradley coverage until they allow Bradley to come home. So then Yanko and Chris get on the air and have this big thing that's saying, hey, letting the nation know what's going on with Bradley. And while that's happening, Celine is going full mustache twirling villain mode with her family and looking out the window saying, like, nah, as far as I'm concerned, Bradley ain't never coming home because I don't know what that woman knows, and it's best that she stays her ass right where she's at. And the last piece is that back at Corey's loft, um, he's going through some more of the trinkets that were in his mom's box. I have no idea. I think just getting sidetracked, but I have no idea how Celine didn't catch this. But there were some Wolf River documents in that box that Celine somehow missed. Turns out that Corey might be the key to get Bradley back home. Once again, Bradley has to rely on Corey to get her out of the jam. And so it's going to be this weird thing. Who knows? Corey has to pick which love or which thing he is sort of tying himself to. He has been beat over and over and over by Bradley to ad nauseum. Whenever he puts his neck out there for Bradley, she doesn't appreciate it, she doesn't respect it, and he's had his heart destroyed. And now he's at his weakest, and the one person who he does feel some sort of connection with clearly has put the other person in harm's way. And now that she's detained and now that she's off, which side does Corey take? He could be the person, the thorn that sort of takes it, can all undo Celine, or he could just ride off with Celine and be like, Bradley, you hurt me enough times that I never have to see you again. This is going to be the true coming to morality stage of Corey that we get here and see which side of the fence he lands on. It's going to be interesting. That's going to be worth. All right, let's see where this goes for him because he's got the biggest dilemma and biggest character piece that whatever choice he makes. Everything else, whether or not Alex ends up back with Paul or Bro, kind of just like a side piece that sort of just happened. It's kind of irrelevant. The stories that meant the most to me have been the Mia and the Chip piece. The Mia and the Chris piece. Everything else has kind of just been there, even with Bradley, because Bradley has always been a character that has progressively gotten worse as the seasons have gone along. So her being detained, yes, I don't want her to be there because I think that's the worst case scenario, but I'm not the most butthurt by it. And so the dangling or the what character do we see come out of the ashes of whatever pain Corey is in is where the sweet spot of the story is. But what did you guys think about this episode of the morning show? Go ahead and leave your comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on X at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast with the same name. That's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere that plays podcasts. We're there. And like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.